All right, good morning, beautiful people. It's a beautiful day in Milwaukee. It truly is a beautiful day in Milwaukee. I hope you get out and get a little vitamin D, get some fresh air, whatever it is that you need. I'm coming at you live from Tosa this morning as I help kick off a next class of Accelerator, pouring into those that are just getting into the industry. So, with that, without further ado, I'm going to jump right into our mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives. Um, One of the things we always try to do is ground ourselves in what it is that we do and how we serve. And within our belief system, one of the core aspects of what we believe in is success results through people. And I talk about this a lot with our internal group, but like the results of KW and our trends of KW are simply the trends of our people, and how we serve them and remove obstacles within their business is ultimately the success results through people and how that shows up within our belief system. And last week, we didn't have team meeting because we had two incredible events where we were celebrating people and the results that they had. We were fortunate to have a great event on Tuesday over in the North Shore office, all around celebrating people and their successes, not only in 2023, but the way their peers viewed them and how the peers gave them awards. Some of them were roasts, some of them were genuine and authentic, and everything in between. And then on Thursday, we had a very similar celebration out in the Lake Country Market, where we had um, 60, 70 people show up out of a roster size of about 100 people out in the Lake Country Market. Almost 70% of our associates showed up to the Lake Country Awards. It was an incredible morning celebrating people, celebrating their successes from 2023. And as I shared with the group, the morning around awards is all about inspiration and aspiration. Inspiration from the standpoint of who inspires you, what is it that they do that they inspire you, and what do you aspire to do someday, and who are you looking up to, who are you chasing, and what does that look like? And I think that's the beauty of what it is that we try to do with our awards ceremonies is how do we inspire you, and who do you aspire to be within the rooms, and how it relates to awards. On a very similar theme around our belief system and success results through people, we have a handful of people that we want to celebrate for capping in the month of January. So, kicking it off, an incredible agent over in the innovation space, is really on an incredible growth trajectory. Someone who studied the businesses and is now making an impact in the lives of other people. Congrats to KG on capping in the month of January. Next up, if you know anything about this guy's story, he had a tough go at it in 2023, but he didn't use the excuse that anything was going to get in his way. And for that, I'm incredibly proud of this individual and what they've done and what they've built within their business. And I want to say a huge congrats to Spencer Harvey on capping in the month of January. Next up, um, next up, this is an incredibly hard driving individual, has gotten into this business within the last several years. Last year closed around 16 million. Never takes no for an answer. Incredibly intentional in how she spends her time. Is a great woman, good friend of ours. Steph Miller, congrats on capping in the month of January. Next up, as I always say, the standard is the standard with family members. Martha Ola, who's my aunt, has been in this business. Last week, we celebrated her 25th anniversary in the real estate game. Has 4 kids that have touched or do touch the business as well, and a great example of what it means to own an area or own a geography. Martha Ola, congrats on capping in the month of January. Next up, this individual is someone who always gives back and is quite frankly, the definition of servant leadership and how he shows up for his people, how he leads through his team, how he pours back and gives to others, how he tries to bend people's arc. It's an incredible testament to servant leadership. Congrats to Rick Reuven on capping in the month of January. Next up, 2 more people to celebrate in January. This one coming at you live from the TOSA office. An incredible group of people, married couple, that always brings, when you have a spouse that's in this game, and I can speak to this firsthand, it's always an interesting dynamic of how you create balance. And these guys are really the epitome of how you create balance because they have a ton of fun doing it together. And you can see it by the energy and vibe that they give. Big congrats to Todd and Andrea Weichert for capping in the month of January. So next up, last person who capped in the month of January, again, We have a big family and a big family that is in this business. And as I always say, the standard is the standard. I have a ton of fun with this person, whether it's going to shows and concerts or going to a Brewers game and chucking it up over beers. PY, Pat Young, congrats on capping in the month of January. Staying on the theme of success results through people, here we go. I'm going to give you a quick update as to January 2024 people results as to what people did in a rising tide environment. There's a little bit of a foreshadow as to what we will talking about, a rising tide environment. So, home run club for the month of January. Again, I think this is the thing that you are striving to do. One listing taken, one contract written, one contract closed. Home run club in the month of January, a handful of people to shout out: Aletha Champagne, Brian Schweppe, Bruce Gallagher, Demera, Emily Holland, Emily Fair, Frank Cinto, Ginger Lazovic, Holly Gamlin, Holly Speranza, Janine, Jay, Jean, Jordan, Kathleen, Katie Falk, Kevin Gardy, Kirsten Miller, Vershay Ward, Tara, Shawnee, Sarah Oberbrunner, Rick Reuven, Peter G, Paul Nicklick, Mike Moen, Nicole Jackson, Melissa Waters, Melissa Bradley, Melina Cortez, Maureen, Lindsay Andrews, Leanne, Lori, and Christy Robbins. Congrats on hitting a home run in the month of January. Here you go. $1 Million Month Club in the month of January. Those that hit $1 million in closed sales: Spencer Harvey, Holly Speranza, Milena, Peter, Katie Falk, Martha, Maureen, Maggie, Janine, Jay, Steph Miller, Jean, Demera, Lori, Bridget, Joey, and Jordan Shelton, rounding out for the $1 Million Month Club in the month of January. All right, next up, GCI for agents on a team. I know it's sometimes difficult to recognize those on teams, and so we try to do it in a variety of ways as teams roll up numbers from an economies of scale standpoint, and yet we want to make sure that we recognize those that are doing businesses within teams. So those that earn the highest GCI in the month of January on teams: Martha Ola, Maggie Drain, Katie Tesmer, Spencer Harvey, Casey Lopez, Janine Warner, Steph Miller, Catherine Eaglehoff, Kirsten Lindstrom, Alicia, Molly Triggs, Lauren Foy, Ginger, Kathy, Damaris, Holly, Nancy, and Noach, rounding out the agents on teams for GCI in the month of January. All right. Percentage volume increase this year over last year. Who killed their month of January that did well and had big jumps in terms of what they did year over year? Thrive Realty Group, Vershay, Steve Law, Sig, Jackie Ryder-Schnapp, Paul Schmidt, Anna Pieper, Melissa, Rona, Ashley, Miller Marriott, Jordan, Peter Gossman, Sheridan, Nicole, Matt Sosi, Laquita, Bethany Clark, Nick Jensen, and Brooke Finnegan. Congrats on the largest percentage increase January of 24 versus January 23. All right, last two slides and success results through people. Individual volume for the month of January. Big shout out in Lake Country to Gene Jaskowski, Bridget Ty, Joey Carini, Jordan Shelton, Kevin Matson, Janice, Randy Young, Pat PY, Lindsay, Guy, Sarah, Ethan, Jessica, Ross, Nick Fetting, Nicole, Jackie, and Brian Schweppe, rounding out the top 15 for individual volumes in the month of January. Hint, hint. January is actually the lowest transactional volume month in any season. In January are those that you should be paying attention as to what they did in the fourth quarter to build their business in the first quarter. Now, shout out to the teams who had a great month in the month of January from a team's perspective. JSG leading the way at number 1, FRG, SRG, On Point, Root River, Fair Hinton, Gallagher Lake Country, Enlighten, Fernwood, A Key Home, Gossman Group, Wessels, PPG, Bar are the seasonal trends within this business, because what these guys and the results they had were a direct correlation from the activities they did November and December in order to have the close production they had in January. This is a testament to those that don't take off November 1st through the end of the year and then come back in January and say, all right, guys, time to go to work. No, these guys were going to work all 12 months of the year last year, and it shows up in what their production looks like in the month of January. Now, all of that is to showcase two things that I'm incredibly proud of for this group in the month of January. Okay. And I said my foreshadow theme for the day was the tide is rising. Two things I'd like to point out for that with this group. All of it is a result of your impact.
KW Milwaukee, let's try this again. So here we go. January 2024 Insights and Trends. What am I seeing and what should you be paying attention to? These are our lead and lag metrics. Most importantly, we're looking at listings taken units and contracts written units and how trends impact where the lag metrics, such as closed units, start to show up. We saw in August and September there was a significant trend change in listings taken units along with contracts written units from a down mid-20s to down mid-single digits. If you follow along then on how that impacts our lag metrics as closed units, those then change from down 20% to down single digits in 30 to 60 days following. So you can see here in January of 23 versus January of 24, there was a positive trend change for the first time in over 12 months where we saw positive closed listings or closed units at up 1%. And then how that correlates to then for future months with listings taken units up 3.5% and contracts written units up 0.5% is very positive for our industry. Now let's take a look at showing time activity in terms of buyer trends. What you see here in the orange line is buyer showing activity at the start of 2024. You can see it's outpacing several years prior as to where buyer showing activity is showing up. Very positive tailwinds as we head into the early start of 2024. Next up, units under contract. In January of 2024, there were 1,223 units that went under contract, which was down only 2% versus prior year. Again, positive trend changes. And pay attention to the 1,223 number because I will show you the delta between new listings taken units, where inventory is beginning to rise, which is positive news for our business. Sales absorption rates is the percentage of inventory that goes under contract. This is a demand metric that we're paying attention to make sure that there were no significant trend changes in this data, which safe to report there isn't, which means demand still remains relatively strong. Heading into average days on market, though, this is something to start paying attention to. Why? Because in January, the average days on market was 47 days. Historically, on seasonal trends, January is where we start to see the trend go where units move faster. You can see dating back to January of 2022 and then January of 2023. This year, though, we saw an adverse trend change where from December to January, the average days on market increased by 20% or 7 days slower. Something to pay attention to as it relates to pricing, which we'll talk about here in a second. Months of supply inventory sitting around 2.5 months, pretty standard for where we've been. And again, looking for significant trend changes, which we do not see over the course of the last 2 years. New unit inventory, this was something I called out earlier. There were 1,611 new units that came to the marketplace. That was up over 3.5% versus January of 23. That's a very positive trend change for our industry. The other thing to note, if you were paying attention, there were 1,200 units that went under contract and 16 new inventory units, which means there was a delta of 400 units that didn't go under contract in the month of January, which is helping the tide rise in terms of total inventory within the southeastern Wisconsin metro market. Now, moving over to pricing, something I'm paying attention to is a little bit of a trend of mixed messaging on pricing. Why? The average was down 2%, the median was up about 0.5%, and the price per square foot was up 11%. So there's a bit of a mixed messaging here on pricing. Where does this all land? Let me help you boil that down. So the market of the moment, what's happening and what am I seeing within the data? Here's what you know. Buyer activity insights, pent-up demand with lowering of rates has seen a pop of buyers showing activity. Early results outpacing any start of the year since 2020. Seller activity insights, and this is where we're paying attention to days on market in the pricing metrics, is sellers cannot get greedy on their price. Early indications are that some sellers have gotten a tad overzealous. How do we know? There's mixed messaging on pricing versus prior years, a bit of stagnation in the first few weeks of the year as it relates to appreciation, and days on market in January spiked when historically we see that January it starts to lower as we head into the spring market. So it's counterintuitive to the demand within the market. That's telling me that some sellers are a bit overzealous. So the market is healthy and buyers are wrangling back some control early in 2024. Early indication, tide of the market is indeed rising. All generated by new listing units are up and buyer activity is healthy, and yet we have to have realistic expectations with our seller. Lots of healthy things happening the first 6 weeks of the year. Let's make sure that we're being proactive with our clients. We're over communicating in terms of what's going on, and let's be the economist of choice. Guys, don't hesitate to reach out.
All right, this is easier, you guys, because then I can control the slide deck. So I have talked about quite a few updates to Command in the last couple of months. And so I think I had said there was like 10 to 15 upgrades that they released over the last 2-3 months. And I kind of went through a lot of those a couple weeks ago. I went through a few at the end of the last year, but I just wanted to take another kind of deeper dive into some of those, particularly ones related to the new agent websites. And so your website isn't just for the search. It's really a tool that you can utilize to engage with your consumers. And there's so many features that you can set up within your website to do that and to market your business. And so I wanted to take a look at a few of those again. So the first one is the home valuation page. And so with the release of new custom pages and landing pages, they've included this home valuation widget that you can pop into any of those custom or landing pages. Just another way to engage with your consumers, and it's a great lead capture opportunity. So essentially what that does, and you'll see a few of those screenshots on the screen, some examples of what that's going to look like. So site visitors are going to go on there and they're going to put in their home address. They're going to enter in their contact information, and that's going to automatically pull a home value estimate for them. You're going to get notified of that lead along with the address of their home and that value estimate that the website showed them. And so it's an excellent way to reach out to them and have larger conversations, about their home and what they're looking to do. So again, that's just a widget that you can add to any page on your website. The other one is you can now showcase your preferred vendor partners. So this has been a section that has been added to, it's actually always been a part of your About page, but you can now add it to any custom page on your website. And it's an excellent way to just go through and add in all of your preferred vendor partners. You can add in the company name, your contact, their contact information, their logo, and it's going to display really nice within that section. So another really great lead capture opportunity for the visitors that are coming to your website to then learn more about your vendor partners and who to reach out to when it comes to mortgage, to title, to staging, anything, you can add them in there. And finally, this is probably one of my favorite additions to the agent websites. I think it's a really great feature enhancement, and it's so easy. You can literally create a digital open house sign-in in seconds, and I'm not kidding, within seconds. So any listing that you find on your website, all you're going to do is you're going to go up to that URL at the top of your screen, /open house. You're going to type that in, hit enter, and then boom. There's your digital open house sign-in. So you can have that displayed at the open house for people to just go in, type in their information, and then you're going to capture that lead directly into your command database. So again, it only takes a few seconds. I love the workflow that this entails. So the moment that they hit enter or submit, they're going to see this beautiful page as well. So it's a very easy workflow for the consumer. It even is going to display a QR code for them to then scan on their phone and view that property. As they're walking through the house, they can, flip through the photos and view more details and information. Okay, how many bedrooms is this again? What's the square footage? So they'll have that on their device as they're walking through the home. And that's all because they've entered in their information and then just scan that QR code that displays after they submit that. So that's what that's going to look like. And again, it only takes a couple seconds. It's just typing in /open house and boom, there's your digital open house sign-in. You no longer have to create your own custom landing page in order to do that. So if you're interested in learning more about a few of those features of your website and just different ways that you can market your website to better engage with your consumers, join me on Thursday. We're going to take a really deep dive into how to really effectively utilize your agent website when it comes to marketing. So that's this Thursday at 11 on Zoom. It's always recorded, you guys, but love for you to join me live on Thursday.
Hey, Linz, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Can any listing be showcased on the open house sign-in form, or how does that work if they want to showcase other people's and they're hosting somebody else's inventory?
Yeah, any active listing, you just have to, if you're holding an open house for another agent, you can go onto your own website, search for that listing, and you can pull up that digital open house sign-in. So your websites are a full IDX search. All of the active listings from the MLS are going to pull into your website. So it doesn't have to be your listing. If you're holding that open house, you can pull that up on your website.
Sweet. Thanks, Linz.
Yeah.
All right. With that, Cotty, I'm going to let you run the show, but I'll introduce Sheriff Reed. Sheriff Reed, we have some interesting insights from a compliance standpoint. What do these guys need to be paying attention to?
Well, good morning, everybody. Paying attention to, I have been told, and I also read in WRA that the compensation for co-brokes, there's been a little shift where some listings are offering less than the 2.4 that we're used to seeing. Some are offering 2%. Some are offering less than that. And there even have been some examples of offering 0%, and expecting the buyer agent buyer to pick that up. I think it's a trend of people seeing that they can be negotiating more, but it is something that I want you to be armed with the correct and not a violating way of responding to this. So it's pretty short. Most of you know this phrase, but it's something that I want to remind everybody on. In the buyer agency agreement, the brand new one that was brought to us on December 23, which means, by the way, I've taken a few calls on this, you do not need the additional addendum for the buyer agent and the additional addendum for the listing agreement anymore, because the listing agreement and the buyer agency agreement are new, and that new verbiage is included in these new forms. But on lines 30 through 52 is the section on compensation in the buyer agency agreement. On line 32, 33 is where the buyer agrees to the amount the buyer will compensate the firm's commission shall be. And then you put in, most people put in 2.4, some people put in 3%, some people put in less. But that is the negotiation that you are having with your client, the buyer. This section ends with a bold statement that says there is no standard market commission rate. This is the new verbiage. Commissions and types of services may vary by firm, and are negotiable based on the firm you hire. So they're talking about and reminding the buyer that they are working with the firm as well as you, and that the buyer is obligated to pay the firm if the agent is not getting what is agreed to in the buyer agency agreement. So if the seller's offer of compensation is less than the agreed amount in the buyer agency agreement, the buyer is responsible for the difference between the amounts of compensation. That sentence is something that you do need to clarify with your buyer and make sure that they do understand this. So go to the next slide. The buyer's agent firm may receive compensation on successful closing from 3 sources. Number 1, the buyer, per the buyer agency agreement, that percentage that you put in, or the listing firm per the MLS or other compensation agreement. So the majority of properties that you will work for your client, the buyer, will be what is listed in MLS, and the compensation that is paid to the co-broke is listed in MLS. Generally, it has been around 2.4, but as I said, this trend is starting to slip a little, and we're seeing less than 2.4 in some cases. Or number 3, the seller, per the offer to purchase. In the buyer agency agreement, it says that you are willing to take compensation from the seller, as well as the listing compensation or the buyer. So you can put it through the offer to purchase, but as I have in here, using the right wording. It's a violation if you don't use the right wording of the code of ethics. And so I'm talking today about what the correct wording is to be. So if you put the next slide, please. How to ask the seller to compensate the firm's commission. So say the seller in MLS or the for sale by owner seller or whatever is offering the co-broke, the buyer's agent, less than what's in the buyer agency agreement. You may want to ask the buyer agent wants to ask the seller directly. The buyer and the seller communicate in the offer, not you. It's a communication between buyer and seller only. Neither agent can communicate the terms directly to the other party. You can't just put in there what you want for a commission or compensation. It is a violation of the Realtor's Code of Ethics if the offer is used to modify the listing firm's offer of compensation. I've seen this happen, and I've fielded some questions on this quite a bit, and hopefully corrected it before it was put into the offer. However, the buyer can ask the seller in the offer to pay some or all of the buyer's broker commission. The buyer may condition the offer upon the seller paying the buyer's agent firm on behalf of the buyer, and that's the key phrase, as a seller's expense at closing. So you cannot, as an agent, directly ask the seller for compensation, but you have to ask on behalf of the buyer. Okay, next slide. And this is the phrase to use if you want to directly ask through your buyer, compensate you a little bit higher co-broke than what you are getting, or in a for sale by owner directly for the seller to do so. So you word it, seller shall, on the buyer's behalf, pay to buyer agent's firm, Keller Williams, the percentage of the sale price at closing. It doesn't have to be the full amount. If they're offering 2, maybe you just want to put in 0.4% of the sale to make it agree with the buyer agents. The other thing you can do is eat it and work for what you're getting compensated for. Say the seller won't budge. If the seller won't budge, your buyer has to make up the difference. If the buyer doesn't want to make up the difference, or you're having an argument with the buyer to make up the difference, as I said, you might have to make the choice of eating it. But again, this is all negotiating. This is all under the basis that all commissions are negotiable. There's nothing set in standard. If you want to offer less than what Keller Williams wants you to offer, we do have a form of authorization or permission to have a reduced commission form, and that is looked at on a case-by-case sort of situation. So
Joan, we do have one question. Should this
Sure.
also be used in a single party transaction? Is it the same verbiage for that?
Yes. Yes, definitely. Where it's not written down anywhere, like in MLS, where the compensation is actually in writing. If it's a single party situation, or as I said, a for sale by owner situation, a builder, anything like that that is not in the listed in the MLS, you can ask through your buyer for the seller to compensate you so that it agrees with your buyer agency agreement. If you get stuck in these situations, please call Steph or me or the hotline. We able to help you. But I wanted to remind, a lot of you know this, and a lot of you know how to put this phrase in correctly. But I still get questions on a lot of agents who still don't know this. So I wanted to make sure you get a reminder of the correct way to directly ask the seller for compensation. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you, Joan. All right, I'm going to pop over to a few exciting training opportunities we have this week, wrapping out February. If you're not one of the 70 people jumping on a flight to Vegas on Monday morning, it's not too late. They did announce there are some virtual opportunities that we're going to be having available in all of the different market centers. So we've paid to have a few live streamed here in all of the market centers. So if you'd like to come to any watch parties, they will be live streaming them in every market center. So Tuesday, we have the vision and state of the company. This is my absolute favorite one. It's where Gary's reviewing everything that he's seeing, reviewing past trends and making predictions for this upcoming year. So that's February 27th from 10:30 in the morning till 1:30 p.m. And then we have an inspiration morning with Mo on Thursday, February 29th from 11 to 12:30. And then they have some breakouts that they're going to be projecting as well for the live stream. So they haven't given us the full details on that. I think people are kind of voting on what they think will be the most important for everybody. So we're going to have all those going in all the market centers. So come hang out and check those out. Opportunity Knocks is a week from this coming Monday. For those who are new, it's a lot like speed dating for teams. So if you are someone who's looking at maybe joining a team, growing a team, it's a really great opportunity to go around, meet a lot of the different rainmakers who are looking to hire, either adding agents to their team, admin roles, you name it. So you'll see the list of teams here who are looking to add talent. So go meet with them. The really great thing I love about this too is it's open outside of our brokerage. So if there's someone who you've worked with outside of Keller Williams who you think would like to explore opportunities available within our world, invite them to come with you, and feel free to share this. So this is at the Zufari Conference Center, which is where we did Bold the last 2 years. Again, it's a week from this coming Monday on March 11th from 3 to 5 o'clock. It's free, so come hang out, mingle with some teams. Our serving committee is doing a fundraiser for camp item collection. So they're looking at getting all of the items that some kids need to go to camp. So we're doing a donation drive and we've made it really easy. So a lot of these kids go to camp and they don't even have pillows. They said pillows is like the #1 thing that they need. So we've broken it down per market center to help easily raise all of the items that some kids need to go to camp this summer. So we'll make sure to share this out, but we're making it simple by saying North Shore, you're responsible for pillows, sunscreen, and body wash. And then Lake Country, you'll see all of your different things. So feel free to donate. If you'd prefer to just do a monetary donation, you can scan the QR code and we'll go out and buy those items. So helping out our community with these kids going to camp. Team meeting next Tuesday, we won't have it because we'll be at family reunion. But we will have the live stream happening down here from 10:30 to 1:30. So feel free to join in on that. We already went over that. All right, so that was team meeting with all of our tech and all.